Many thanks for staying tuned. It's still the conversation here on Lagos Television. One recurring feature from administration to administration in Nigeria is corruption. And many administrations have always campaigned and vowed along that line to end corruption or at least step up the fight against corruption. And in this line, many initiatives have been formulated to either fight corruption or at least nip corruption in the bud. Have these initiatives had the needed reforms that, initiators thought at the beginning, or are we just walking or dancing in cycle? That's the conversation on the program today, where we intend to take a look at Nigeria's anti-corruption drive. Now, is this a fight for only the government, or is this a fight for you and I? The conversation begins now, and we do have a guest in the studio this morning. He is a policy development strategist. Join us this morning as we welcome Jeff Adebowale. Thank you for being here, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Right, let's start this way. We know that, as I'm sure that as long as Nigeria has existed, so has corruption, if it is safe to say. But of course, we've also witnessed corruption in many folds as administration succeeds one another. But at the moment, let's take it from the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, where he also did say that at some points corruption was also fighting back as much as government was also trying to fight corruption. So if you put that side by side with where we are at the moment, where we've continued to see sharp practices, we've continued to see corrupt practices daily, with government saying we will continue to fight headlong some of these issues, are we really fighting corruption as a nation, or are we just playing lip service to the fight against corruption?
Okay, thank you very much. And from your question and from my own standpoint, where I see it and what I see, I would say that we are fighting corruption, but we need to do a little bit more than what we're doing. Do we require to, we need a lot of reforms. I mean, that's probably what is going to make the work that the likes of EFCC and ICPC are doing to be more effective. So are we fighting? Yes. If, just going by the question straight up, yes. Are we doing it? Yes. Are we doing enough? I think there's still
room for
a lot of improvement.
Okay. Or is corruption fighting us back?
Absolutely. Again, yes. I think is Dr. Kojo Iweala, who also wrote a book and said when you fight corruption, corruption will fight back. It's just a normal thing to happen, where people must defend themselves, even if they're doing the wrong thing. I mean, literally, you don't expect that you want to stop a system that has been so ingrained within not just only the public sector. In fact, even in the private sector, procurement and procurement fraud is actually even in the private sector, let alone the public sector. So the guys who are making those extra cash, you don't expect them not to fight back and wanting to keep that extra sort of income to keep their lifestyle. So yes, corruption is fighting back as well.
So if we look at, I mean, you've also mentioned the EFCC, there's the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, which was solely created to fight issues surrounding corruption. And so if you look at the way the EFCC started and the bite, the fear that a lot of people had for the EFCC at that time and what we're witnessing today, would you also say that, yes, as much as we are fighting the war on corruption, that body, is it still living up to expectations? Or would you suggest, now this is your own opinion, would you suggest that there is a fine-tuning of the EFCC, as it were, and again, perhaps amend the law which created the EFCC so that the bites which, we saw when the EFCC started can come back?
Okay, so my view is that EFCC is doing some work, albeit also, like we said, corruption is fighting back. So you don't expect that EFCC goes after someone who is corrupt, not to want to fight for his freedom.
Okay.
by inducing the system, using political will or money, whichever way. But the challenge is that these two institutions, EFCC, ICPC, needs to be more independent. And that's where there will be the need for a call for reform.
Okay.
The current chairman of EFCC, I don't know him personally, but with my study and, of course, engagement with the agency, with the commission, I know that he is trying to actually bring some reforms.
Okay.
But, of course, this is a national agency. There's no way you can know everybody that he's working with and those who may have been injected into the system for the purpose of fighting back. So it may be going the right way, but it may have one or two people turning the ship in a different direction.
Okay.
So yes, would there be a need for reform? I remember when the FCC started, I was a young consultant, and I was still running, I was still running my BSc in the university, but I was also a young consultant because I was already working while I was doing my first degree, because I had my OND in Lagos State, Laspotech, before going for BSc in Olabisi Onabanjo University. I remember I was in Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and we had a conversation, and this conversation about EFCC came up, with what President Obasanjo was putting together then. And it sort of sent that sort of fear into the heart of everybody because it was new. Nobody knew anybody who was there. So people, sort of sat up. But again, the agency has been for a while, and the possibility of infiltration has happened within the agency. So clearly, I know that there are some systems where they try to reshuffle people and all of that, but there's much more that we need to do. And I mean, it's not just only about EFCC or ICPC, but the entire public service, the entire public sector needs to be reformed. And I know that we said that conversation here when this administration was started, that one of the things President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu must do is to reform the public sector.
Right, Jubala, sorry, I mean, just to add to that, it is still on the reformation of the EFCC, if possible, is because a lot of Nigerians have also accused the EFCC of being selective in its fight against corruption and also perhaps some kind of biases, either politically or otherwise. Do you also see that as possible, as a possibility?
So if the question is, do I see it as a possibility? The answer is yes. But again, a few things that I know is that there are many cases that EFCC are prosecuting that have been existing for more than 5 years. And such cases, when you see the depth of those cases, you will wonder why are these cases in court in the first place. So if the current chairman is taking his time to do proper investigation before engaging the court of law, I think it makes sense to allow him go through the process, because if you look at it also, let's take the US for example, you will discover that FBI don't just go to court.
True.
They take their time to investigate a matter and have enough evidence against the person they're taking to court.
Right.
So it is one thing that we want to allow the chairman of EFCC or ICPC to actually do thorough investigation before going to court, because I know for a fact that some cases have been lost for lack of merit of the investigation. So, it's possible, but really my own view is that I don't want to speak because I'm not an insider to say, oh, this is what is going on. I don't have any evidence against their investigation or how they, practice. But I want to believe that this is a man who have decided to want to do proper investigation before prosecution. And if that's what it is, then we need to give it some time to see the outcome of some of the cases that they are bringing to the fore.
Okay, there was a statement credited to the man who created this agency, ICPC, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, in a particular day this morning, where he was saying that fighting corruption should start from the top. And people have also accused the AFCC of selective trial, saying that they focus more on Yahoo boys instead of high-profile cases. What do you have to say to that?
Okay, so this is what we have seen. And you know, it's a question of numbers. Like I said, I want to believe that if you must take an high-profile person to court who has the funds, who have the signs, you know, many signs to back him up, to talk about, like somebody said, technicalities in court. You want to be careful. You want to have your facts before going to court. It's easier to sort of prosecute the boys, you know, the Yahoo boys, because clearly most of them go to court with was a plea bargain. So clearly you can have as many of those, and you can see as many of those on social media and all of that. But the high-profile one will take years, will take a long time, and so they need to be very careful as they approach so that they don't go to court with technicalities, you know, issues around that. But if you ask me, part of what I will say that we need to focus on as a nation in fighting corruption is to decentralize power, which is what the president is doing. So if powers are not concentrated at the center, you know, a lot of procurement is done at the center, a lot of decisions are done at the center, you sort of narrow, that creates a narrow path to corruption, and it makes it a lot easier for corruption to thrive. But when you decentralize power, and you know that if things are not just in one place, so it will be difficult for me to want to come, and I see in this studio today at this morning, I don't know about, if I'm doing my mathematics right, about 7 other people apart from myself. And if I'm going to want to chase a project down, and I know I have 7 different people to sort of, you know, grease their palms, it's a lot. But if it's just one, if it's just you, then it will be easier for me to come back door to come and meet you, and then I allow you settle the rest. So that is what I see. And so by the time we decentralize power and you know, procurement and all of that, and we have smart systems, you know, to sort of bring to the fore public procurement, then it becomes a lot difficult for people to come and want to induce the system.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And people have also criticized the way and manner at which EFCC barging on people, they go to hotels, they barging on people in their homes without doing their due diligence. Is this the right approach, or how civil should the EFCC be in their approach? So even if somebody is a suspect.
Yes. So I don't believe that that's the best approach, and I don't think EFCC should continue with that approach. If otherwise so, they feel that, hey, we have intel and people are carrying out a crime in a place and we need to bust them, it's a style that I think is permissible by law. But I don't think that's the best way. That's, you know, asking me. I don't think that's the best way. I think it's important for us to know that you don't tell a criminal that he doesn't have a right or he has a right. Whichever way, the most important thing, we need to be humans first of all, and understand that our approach to things must be in such a way that at least we can balance the equation of the human right, you know, conversation. So that's
and
my
the
own
suspect
advice.
is still innocent
Until proven guilty. That's why I said that. You know, you can't say somebody who is committing a crime has the right, you know, but you can't also say it doesn't have it. So I'm not a lawyer to, you know, be able to say, oh, you're committing a crime, so I say you have your right. No, you don't have your right to commit a crime. You have your right as a human being, but that doesn't give you the right to commit a crime. Okay. So that's why I said that we just need to strike the balance. Is that approach the best? No. But again, I think, my thinking, maybe by law, they're sort of permissive, they're permitted
because
to
sometimes
do that.
they go into hotels.
Yes.
And of course, they violate the right of others.
Yes. Others.
Yes. So that's my own point of saying, yes, we may have an intel that there's somebody, or in this particular hotel, crime is going on. And we've seen it that, yes, they're committing crime and all of that. And we need to go there so to bust them and do all of that. I think they can say that that's why they do it. But when you know that this is a hotel of maybe 20 rooms and maybe you're only going after 1 or 2 people or 10 people, you don't need to then go there and break down all the doors because you want to catch 10 people and then somebody's in the room innocent, and then you pack everybody and then you wait until the next day to profile them and separate the criminals. And that trauma in itself is, you know, is something that will be very... I travel a lot. I'm leaving the studio right now to Abuja, and I'm going to be in a hotel. At the end of the day, if I'm in the hotel,
and then you bust
and
into...
then somebody busts, it will be like, hey, what's going on?
Right.
And so it will create that fear, you know, into me being able to peacefully go into another city to want to, you know, go do my business and go into a hotel because I don't know what's going to
happen.
You know, so.
Okay, so along the drive of government at ensuring that issues surrounding corruption are nipped in the bud, we've talked about the creation of those two bodies, the EFCC and the ICPC. Along that same line, at some point in time, government created the single treasury account, the TSA account, and under that we saw the introduction of the NIN, the BVN, and all of these in a bid to streamline how monies, you know, go about, especially bank transactions and all of that. So if we look at that way and how government also is being intentional in blocking leakages and loopholes, would you do the treasury single account, monitoring how that has worked in years past, would you say that that indeed has helped issues around corruption, or has it further, you know, given access to how monies can transfer?
Okay, so I think the answer is, to me, the answer is that it has helped.
Okay.
I mean, Nigeria used to record well over 18 billion in losses to corruption or corrupt practices every year. I remember, I think as a Minister of Finance or as the CBN governor, I was saying that with some of the initiative and some of the engagement, they've saved the nation about $20 billion. So I want to believe that that is helping, but you know, corrupt people will always find ways around, you know, the whole engagement. And I think that's why Mr. President has called for reforms in procurement. I think that was even an engagement last week. And one of the other things I saw that is credited to him is that he is going after bad Nigerians. So clearly, I think he has sort of segmented his engagement with his administration to sort of move from face to face. So I think he's in the face of now trying to fix corruption or procurement and all the other things that sort of surround it. And I think a lot of the corrupt practices in Nigeria is around procurement rather than other sort of, there are other ones, but largely around procurement. So if we can solve that, we will start to see fear will be created in the heart of people, you know, to be more careful about how they engage.
18 billion naira was actually put to the first quarter of this year to have been lost to financial crimes and corruption stemming from procurement processes in the country. So if we have that, and that is looked into holistically, and perhaps issues around corruption we can then say we're winning the war against corruption.
My recommendation for the federal government, and we have tried to have this engagement with this government, again, around the reforms, is for us to have a platform that, you know, and I'm using this opportunity to call on, you know, everyone working with Mr. President. It doesn't cost us anything, I mean, to have a smart system powered by AI that can help us track every project from every ministry. We have a ministry of special duties, I believe. There's nothing wrong in that ministry having a smart system that can help us track every project in this nation. I mean, at the national level, and of course at the state level, similar stuff. So that when we can track every project, we can say project timeline, where's the project, and you do a lot of monitoring and evaluation, and the system can sort of help us track performing project from the ones that are not performing. And so a contractor like myself, who is probably doing a road, if I'm failing, it will be obvious there. And the Minister of Works will not have to, even if he has to go and do inspection, which is normal for him because that's his ministry, the whole nation can see that, hey, person A is not doing his work, and that's why we're having issues. And so people will stop calling on the president like he's not doing his work. We can see what he is doing, how he's engaging, and what is causing delay. And it can be obvious that Nigeria is supposed to be working but these are the people causing the delays. These are the people causing the issues. And these things don't cost a lot. It's just about the will to want to put those systems in place to monitor and manage what we're doing. You build a road, or you have a road work done, it's commissioned, and just 365 days after, that road is deplorable. And the person who had constructed the road, who is supposed to be maintaining or managing the road for the next 5 years, is nowhere to be found. Because the person who got the contract sold it to somebody else to do. And so he has collected maybe 20%. The person who is doing the road wants to make profit, gets the money to do it. First of all, buys a car, buys a house, and then use anything and whatever he can find to just do the road. And then every year you keep coming back to that same road, and money keeps being spent on that same road. If you have a smart system to track what we're doing, if such happens, we can easily say, no, this road was done last year, because it's in the system. You don't bring it up again, because the person who you are bringing it up to sign cannot remember, cannot possibly remember everything. So we just need to be smarter with how we engage. And I like what Elon Musk is trying to do with the US, with Department of Government Efficiency called DOGE. We need something similar. We need to make our public service more efficient in delivery of services.
Okay, Jeff, we cannot isolate the judiciary from our fight against corruption. Oftentimes we have seen that some of these trials, they take years and years, and at the end of the day, people lose interest. So would you add your voice to those who are suggesting that we should have a special court for corruption in the country?
Absolutely. If you had asked me what was my recommendation, that would be, I mean, that's like my number one, advice on that regard. Lagos has a special court, different from the Lagos High Court. And I know that some cases, go there, and majorly some EFCC cases go to that special court, most usually the one that are under the Lagos jurisdiction. I know some years ago, maybe 2007, Lagos started a drive for pre-trial conference and all of that. The reason why I know this was because I sort of managed the multimedia production for that whole conference. I used to be in this compound. I used to be managing the studio at the Radio Lagos, Real Mix Live. So I used to do a lot of multimedia production and all of that. And so I was in that conference, and I listened to what the Lagos, pre-trial conference and the Lagos, judiciary was trying to reform. They were trying to put in place, and I think they did it. And yes, I think we need to have a special court for cases like this, so that it becomes a lot faster when EFCC or ICPC or even the Nigerian police come with a case to this special court to quickly listen to them and get rid of them. And, let declaration be made, let judgment be made as quickly as possible. I know for a fact that there are some EFCC cases that are still in court, well over 5 years. Some judges retired and then they started de novo. And, the freedom of the people, whether you're locking them up or you're freeing them, the freedom is at stake. They can't live their life the way they should because they're still going back and forth. So if we do this, it will also become a lot easier for EFCC or ICPC to prosecute, because clearly there's a special court that listens to them, and they can have more time to quickly go through the process rather than adjourning endlessly.
Okay, so Jeff, I mean, from what we've identified so far, it looks like we were also, one way or the other, assuming that corruption is only at the top.
Yes.
And so can we also break it down and also look at the fact that corruption is everywhere?
Yes.
And at the moment, are you worried that there's that possibility that because of the nature of the country at the moment, are we also gradually normalizing corruption?
I mean, based on your last statement, the answer is we are not gradually. We have.
We have normalized it.
I mean, we have. I mean, I'm telling you practically that even the private sector, there are procurement frauds that go on. I mean, organizations have procurement officers or procurement managers, and you will being a consultant, I've seen quite a lot of it. You will do an invoice and the fellow will call you and say, Oga.
What's in it for me?
No, in fact, some of them will say, what's in it for me?
Or
They
some
will just
will say you
explain.
have not added
Some will
money.
say, yes, say it is this amount, but make it this amount.
Because
so that
I'm going to get this.
yes,
I mean, so gone were those days that they hid it.
Yes. No,
now
this time
it is
around, no.
not.
They call
It's okay to just.
I mean, even is as bad as a company wants to do CSR. I mean, you want to sponsor an event. The people who are behind it will say, okay, yes, this is your stuff. We want to sponsor it. It's going to cost 100 million. And we're ready to give you the 100 million. 100 million will be enough. You say, yes, okay. So in your submission and all of that, make it 200 million. I mean, they are sponsoring. Sponsorship, I mean, it's as bad as a sponsorship. We're sponsoring. We need the brand exposure. So they will tell you 100 million is what you need, but you claim 200 million.
And then they will get the 100
so they will
million
get the
off
100
it.
million off it. I mean, it's at the highest of some of the biggest organizations you can talk about in this country.
And so if we're talking about the fight against corruption, when do we get to also begin to break it down and say, you know what, this is not a fight for just the government. It is a fight for everybody.
Yes. I mean, literally, okay, so that's why I don't sort of blame EFCC when you say EFCC are chasing Yahoo boys. Because clearly, those same guys are going to grow up to be the leaders of tomorrow. And I put that in inverted quotes. So at the end of the day, you will see that there are associations of Yahoo boys' mothers. You will see, so you talk about all of these things and...
Yahoo Training Academy.
Yes. So there's a whole lot going on in this nation that we have eroded value. I mean, it's not becoming so obvious, but it started many years ago. I mean, I was in the university. Yes, I drove on campus because I was already working, like I said. And then people approached me and thought, okay, I was like one of them too. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I work. And one of my lecturers saw a publication on the Nation's newspaper, June 12th. I think that was 2006, and saw me and was like, and you come to class like you're just like another person. I said, yes, I'm like an ordinary student. Some had come to me and said, so what are you doing? How are you making the money? I said, no, I work. Yes, I come to school, but I work. So I go about making legitimate money. So, and this is, like I said, 2006, 2007. We're just seeing the effect now because Yahoo business didn't start just now. So we have eroded the value system so badly that people now see fraud, cheating as a way to survive. These guys don't want to work anymore. And so the value is not just about the public sector or government or an organization. It comes down. Secondary school boys are called benefit boys. They drive to school. I mean, they have parents. I know when we were growing up, you can't dare do something funny and then it's not only your father that will beat you.
They'll beat you from the bus stop to the house.
I mean, I still have a tribal, I call it tribal mark that my father gave me, not because I stole, but my father, you can't even do anything wrong with him. He will beat you like he's not your father. To instill discipline in you. And I'm not saying that's right, in itself, but the tribal marks keeps me...
It reminds you.
Yeah, like, no, you can't be a naughty boy. So. And as I deal with the young ones that are around me, I sort of, carry that, and they always say I carry this captain phase. I'm always this principle. You must follow the principle of doing the right thing.
It was the training you received.
The training I received. So it's not about flogging, but about the principle. When I train at the banks and all of that, and we talk about all of this, I say, you are in you're in a very highly regulated, use all the adjective, institution. So you cannot allow for jumping processes. Because when you jump a process to the next and you allow it go, someday somebody will think that they can do something funny.
Okay, Jeff, a very quick one. Fine, as much as we are blaming these young ones, let's start from our voting system, vote buying.
Yes.
That is corruption as well. And of course, somebody had embezzled money, and after some years, because your friend is now the president or your friend is now the vice president, you now got a state pardon. Isn't that a way of also encouraging corruption?
Absolutely. There's no other way to put it. I mean, if you talk about poverty being a sort of weapon, for certain people to get into office, the understanding is either you empower people and you get people to be loyal to you by you earning their loyalty, or you buy their loyalty. If you can't earn it by doing the right thing and letting people follow you as a leader, then you can buy it. And that's the things that people play at. Some people know how to build leaders. And so you will see that an Asiwaju, for example, everybody, there's some people, not the entire nation, but there's some people who they are like this man or nothing. The same way, if you talk about Atiku, you talk about Peter Obi, you talk about Kwankwaso, you have people who are sort of, but you know, there are some people who buy loyalty, and it's about how much they can induce the system. So such people will look for anybody and everybody just to be able to gain. So some people will go through the path of crime with the understanding that if I support you and you get into that seat, you would remember that I supported you, so you will grant me pardon, despite the fact that I did the wrong thing. But I did the wrong thing, you didn't, so I did it for you. So those are some of the ways people buy loyalty. And for me, I think
it is still corruption.
It's still corruption. We need to sort of fix all those things, because what we're doing is we're doing greater damage to the nation and to humanity as a whole.
Okay. All right, before we allow you to go, Jeff, now you've said at least the fight is gradual. And so political will on the part of government and sustaining the fight against corruption, what again will be your advice to this administration?
Well, I think Mr. President is on the right path as to, working on the economy, because if you actually make the economy better and more people have the buying power to, solve their basic needs, we will start to reduce corruption little by little. Mr. President, as I said, is chasing, and now he's going to focus now on the bad people of this nation. I'm sure he has reports of people who have done great damage to this nation, and he wants to start going after them. And I think we should allow him. We should support him. That's on the public sector side. We need to do a lot of reform of the public service. On the private sector, organizations need to be careful about their human capital, and they need to train and ensure that they follow policies. Sometimes we write policies on paper and we don't follow them adequately, so that creates room for somebody to think that they can jump the line. We as citizens must also understand that obeying the law is not luxury, it's not painful, it's just things that we must do. Which means when you get to a traffic light, that's not when you press on your gas. You actually slow down and stop. Whether there's anybody there or not, stop. It's traffic lights, let there be control. When you get on the BRT lane, on the train lane, you don't jump the queue, stay on the queue. It will get to you. Sometimes you see people even getting onto the aircraft and you see them rushing, and I wonder, every seat has a number.
And the aircraft won't leave you without a check.
So why don't you calm down? So we just must start to imbibe those culture. And then at home, of course, parents must talk to their children and really instill the right value in them. Parents themselves sometimes may create that system.
Because sometimes we lie on the phone.
Yes, of course, that's what I said. Yes. One has happened with my mom says she's sleeping.
So my mom said
she's sleeping. At the end of the day, you're creating the wrong value system in that child. So everybody at the different levels must understand that to fight corruption in this nation, we must all be part of it.
Okay, Jeff, because you are a policy development strategist, let's quickly take this video. I'm sure you'd also add your voice to one or two things there. So we will take a video. This morning we understood that members of the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities were protesting over the non-payment of minimum wage. Jibola, when are we carrying our own placards?
Very soon. Very soon.
So, because these are NASU members, of course, I think affiliated with WAEC. This is somewhere around the first gate on Agidingbi Road in Ikeja here. And, of course, that's a protest to the federal government over the non-payment of their minimum wage. I don't know if we're able to hear one or two things they had to say, and then we'll come back for the final word from Jeff, and then we can wrap up this segment of the show.
get information along.
I want got information about Congo.
When you say things like this, some section of the workers have collected minimum wage. At least they've gotten 1 month. Others are yet to get theirs. They don't even know which way it is. What does disparity do when it comes to labor force?
Okay, so interestingly, this December makes it 25 years being an HR consultant. Apart from, of course, delving into policy development and all of that. I always say that, well, I developed a strategy called the 3 Ps of business success.
Okay.
People, processes, and performance. They're the 3 most important things in any business success. If you set up a business, you set it up to make money, solve problem and make money. That's performance. It must go through some processes, whether you're producing or you're rendering service. At the end of the day, people must be there. In fact, let your factory be fully automated.
Right,
Somebody
you
must.
still need people.
So those 3 Ps are very crucial. But you see, the performance and the process are driven by people. So if you don't have the people strategy right, then you're going to create an unhappy environment. Great place to work is the kind of an environment where people are happy and they're engaged. That's why you see that there was a state who tried to do something funny by creating a
Ministry of Enjoyment.
So you must make the people happy.
So people cannot enjoy that.
No, you can't. If you're not happy, you can't be engaged. I mean, we're all here laughing and smiling, and I see every other person behind the camera, you know, sort of smiling at what I said.
But are we really
Yeah,
smiling from
Jeff,
the bottom of our
well,
hearts?
That's what I'm coming to. That's what I'm coming to. That
Powder,
no,
lights,
that's what I'm
and
saying.
camera.
That
Inside of these people, how they've been enjoying, including myself and everybody, they are not happy. They have not gotten their new minimum wage.
Thank you. That's why I'm saying that. You know, I'm saying that, yes, people are sort of smiling behind the camera, but if you ask the real question, how happy are they and how engaged are they with what they're doing?
And that is key to productivity.
Yes.
Key.
So if you want to have a productive
workforce,
you need to keep people happy. So when you pay some and you don't pay others, there's a problem.
There's a problem.
I mean, if Lagos has agreed to pay a certain amount, I mean, implementation should be seamless. Lagos has an Oracle
and it should cut
system.
across.
Yes, Lagos has an Oracle system. So I'm telling you because you should know that. I know.
Jeff, you are a prophet.
we need to go really, and perhaps again we will bring Jeff sometime as an HR expert to, of course, talk about the 3 Ps that he's talked about this morning, because really you cannot succeed in any business, either government or private, without these 3 Ps. Many thanks, Jeff Adebowale, for finding time to be here on the program today.
Thank you for
having me. Appreciate your
having me.
thoughts. We'll take a quick break. The conversation returns shortly.